Yeah, what else? I just
Now? Yay! Welcome. Welcome to the Stafford Miller Poetry Event 2026. We're very happy to see your smiling faces here today for this memorial event. I'm Maureen Carroll with the Kansas Authors Club, and this is, I believe, our 10th annual Stafford event this year. 11? Hey, somebody knows, awesome. Now, this is thanks to Diane Silver, Annette Billings, and Iris Craver for keeping this going last year in 2025. And it's also thanks to Marcia Epstein for organizing us and getting it going this year in 2026. And next year in 2027, you'll find Kansas Authors Club will be hosting this event, and the information is already on the Kansas Authors Club website. So check it out. Also on May 3rd, Sunday, May 3rd, Kansas Authors Club in conjunction with Lawrence Public Library and with On-Car Press will host our first and hopefully annual Lawrence Book Festival. Woot woot! 50 authors, keynote speakers, children's events, Lawrence, or the Free State Food Truck, pretzels. It's gonna be a blast. So check that out also on the Kansas Authors Club website. So a couple of housekeeping points before we begin. There's water and snacks and such over here, and there's restrooms behind me back there. And please help me thank our wonderful, wonderful musical presenters. We have Chris Luxem from the Raven Bookstore. And in a little bit, we will welcome the singing group, the Persisters. And thanks also to our marvelous hosts, Will Haynes and Watkins Museum. And also thanks to our committee who have brought this to you this year, which include Iris Craver, Lindsay Garcia, and M. Pawlowski Moore, the Silver Lion poet.
Yes. Thank you.
So Iris Craver's recent publication is titled Between the Tracks and the River, Life in North Lawrence, Kansas, and is available at the Raven Bookstore. Iris enjoys leading expressive creative writing groups at the Senior Center and the Sunrise Project here in town. She also is spending a lot of time now as the editor of the Arc of Justice. It's a treasure trove for activists in Kansas, and I highly recommend it. Lindsay Garcia is the author of Cravings and Thank You, as well as the co-author of Live a Great Story and While Away, travel poems. She resides in Emporia, thanks for coming, Lindsay, where she serves as the poetry editor and publicist for Meadowlark Press. Lindsay is a recipient of the Next Gen Under 30 Kansas Award and Kansas Governor's Arts Award. And M. Pawlowski Moore is founder and president of the Sunflower Poetry Society of Kansas. Mr. Moore is the chancellor for the National Federation of State Poetry Societies. In 1998, he was awarded the Sammy Davis Jr. Zora Neale Hurston Award for Arts and Humanities. He is a contributing poet to the Civil Rights Memorial Center Community Poem, A Civil Community. And please help me welcome Pawlowski Moore.
I guess I made a big entrance there.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much. And on behalf of, it's already been said, what I would like to reiterate, on behalf of the committee and also the Kansas Authors Club, we really want to let you all know how much we appreciate you, the audience, coming to this event and joining us here. and celebrating and fellowship and enjoying the music and the poetry. So I would like to acknowledge our co-sponsor of this event, Bards Against Hunger. And it's a great organization. You know, it's a national project dedicated to using poetry to help feed the hungry. And so we have available on the table over here, just for $10. There are copies of the new anthology, which is the Kansas City edition. So let's definitely get out and support that. And also, we are also taking the donations for Just Food, which I'm sure you all are familiar with. So if you can, please give. This is a worthy cause to get to. So and by donating and or supporting the anthology. So and I guess I would just want to say that in brief, you know, together we gather to celebrate the life of esteemed poet William Stafford and remember the extraordinary Lawrence poet Ronda Miller. The words and acts of these phenomenal poets continue to inspire and illuminate the literary landscape of Lawrence, Kansas, and beyond. And so I'll just briefly give you a little bit of information about why we're here to celebrate these two remarkable poets. And one of the things that I think you would find very interesting is that William Stafford's first, and I'm sure many people know this, but I think it's worth mentioning William Stafford's first collection of poems, West of Your City, was published when he was 46 years old. So you can begin, you know, anytime. There's always a time to launch yourself into, I like to say, greatness. So there's no time schedule. And as the author of 65 volumes of poetry, you know, he is one of the most noteworthy and well-known poets of the 20th century. So it's really worth mentioning that. And I think that just to say quickly that William Stafford's poetry, to say something about his poetry, it is accessible, it is straightforward, it is intimate. In an interview with the Paris Review, he characterized his poetry as, and he characterized his writing as a back and forth with people in your town, in your street, in the field where you're working, or the camp where you are. So he was really, really a man of the people. And so I think that is very important. That aesthetic carried through his poetry, even into his award-winning collection of volume of poetry, Through the Dark, which won the National Book Award. So I just think it's very important to mention those wonderful accomplishments, and this is why we are here. We're celebrating someone who was a U.S. Poet Laureate before it was actually the term. When he was appointed in 1970, that the term was, consultant in poetry to the Library of Congress, which later became the U.S. Poet Laureate. So just a remarkable history. And before I say a few words about Ronda Miller, I wish to share a heartfelt appreciation and gratitude from her daughter and her son, Apollonia and Scott. They asked me to please thank the incredible community of poets and artists here in Lawrence for continuing to honor their mother's work and the impact of William Stafford's. So they asked me to make sure that I share this, and I want to share this with you all. And speaking of Ronda Miller, throughout the years, Ronda Miller served her community in significant ways. She worked in many different jobs, from being a union organizer to a life coach, and she spent 30 years in early childhood before she retired. So she wrote about a lot of these experiences. And a lot of this is reflected in her poetry, which is very lyrical, very beautiful. And they're complex poems about disclosure and witnessing hard truths. Ronda Miller was a president of the Kansas Authors Club. And with the Kansas Authors Club, she traveled across the state of Kansas, sharing the importance of poetry while participating in literary events and organizing opportunities for other poets to shine. She was about community. And so was William Stafford. So we gather here in that spirit to remember them, to honor them, and to uplift their memory and their legacy. As Rhonda stated most eloquently, it isn't about my life. It is about allowing myself to meet the poems I was meant to write. And with that being said, I am going to turn the floor over to our first panel of poets. And I definitely want to thank our readers for coming here. We appreciate you all make this event so special. So thank you for coming. And so I'm going to turn it over to the panel of poets, and then each poet will introduce themselves to you, and they will read a poem of their choice, as well as one from. Okay. And here you are, Ms. Diane.
Hi, I am Diane Silver. I am not Annette Billings. I think you might have noticed that, who was supposed to be the first reader. I bring you greetings from Annette Billings, who had some adventures yesterday. She is very much recovering, so much so that she insisted I come today when I wanted to stay in the hospital with her. She's very much recovering. She did have a stroke. It is listed as a minor stroke, but she decided to take some meds, and so she's at KU Med Center and is recovering very, very well.
Thank you.
Very well. And she wanted me, I asked her, do you want me to say anything to people at the reading? You're making me go to the darn reading. Do you want me to say anything? She said yes, because as a retired nurse, I want to remind them to pay attention to their bodies, which she did and was able to get to the ER in St. Francis pretty quickly. So we all send our love to Annette, and I'm taking over her reading spot because of that. So, but once you all know, she's doing much better. So I am reading two poems today, one from William Stafford. And this came to mind because I grew up along the Canadian border, and it's basically an anti-war poem that was, according to what I could find, first published in 1975. Oh, and about me, I am Diane Silver. I have a Substack called Poetry and Life. You can read lots of my poems and all that kind of stuff. So this was a poem that was apparently first published at the year the Vietnam War ended, by William Stafford. It is called At the Unnational Monument Along the Canadian Border. This is the field where the battle did not happen, where the unknown soldier did not die. This is the field where grass joined hands, where no monument stands, and the only heroic thing is the sky. Birds fly here without any sound, unfolding their wings across the open. No people killed or were killed on this ground, hallowed by neglect in an air so tame. The people celebrated by forgetting its name. Thank you, William Stafford. And I think that poem's particularly important since the current resident of the White House is saber rattling at Canada. And so when I picked that poem, I thought about one poem of mine would fit with it best. And it's a poem that comes from the book that I'm finishing up now. The book's entitled Of Monsters and Blackbirds. And it's a poem where I'm thinking about what makes us not fight, what makes us not become monsters. Oh, by the way, do y'all remember who Godzilla is? Godzilla, Japanese monster movie? Okay.
Favorite kaiju.
Size of a skyscraper, famous for crushing cities. Godzilla, what a difficult daddy you are. You talk about the family business as if it were a treasure to be bestowed. Gold would be delivered to my porch if only I'd agree to accept. But I don't want to smash cities, and yes, I know my feet were born for it. I still feel the shock of your fist when it first connected with my teeth. The sting of cheeks scorched by your fury, the sound my heart made when you stomped my book of thoughts, ground every word to dust. I don't want anyone else to ever let out the scream that came from my mouth.
Hi, I'm Artie Ware. I'm listed as artist, but nobody calls me that, so I'm not sure how that happened. I've been called Artie since I was in college, so it's been a little while, quite a few years. I'm from Albuquerque, originally from Kansas. I grew up south of Eudora, and I graduated from KU. And then the job market seemed to dry up here, so I moved away, and I've been in Albuquerque actually longer than I've been in Kansas.
Wow.
So I moved there in 1980. So I love the mountains. It's really nice out there. And I think Albuquerque is kind of like an oasis. It's we can have crappy weather in every direction, north, south, east, and west. And Albuquerque's just sitting there in the sunshine. Mountains have a little snow on them, and well, sometimes quite a bit of snow, but the storms often just bypass it. So it's very pleasant there. I really like it. And I probably mentioned that last year that I met Rhonda in 1974 on a job, and so we knew each other quite a long time. We kind of lost track for a while because, as you know, there wasn't internet back then, or cell phones, and all the long distance calls got charged, so you kind of avoided calling long distance because your bill would just keep going up. So anyway, yeah, we kept contact a little later because I came back to see my dad now and then, and then after he passed away, I still came back now and then because we had property here, but now I don't, so my connection is, I guess, becoming less and less. So I'm hoping to find a home here with you all. So I started writing again. I wrote a little bit when I was in college, but it was the sappy, oh, he left me kind of poems. I don't even know where they are. I'm sure I threw them all out. So now I'm starting a different kind of poetry, and I think it's much better, and I'm just learning. So also another point, in the middle of January, sometimes songs pop into my head when I get up in the morning, and the song that popped up into my head in the middle of January was Wishing You Were Here by Chicago. I don't know if you all remember that or not. And I was like, dang, that sounds like the Beach Boys. How can it be the Beach Boys? And I looked it up, and the Beach Boys are backing them up. It's just great. And they didn't do any woodwinds, or any trumpets and stuff until like the end of the song. So it wasn't real typical Chicago. I love that song, and it really reminded me of Rhonda, wishing she was here. And also another friend of mine passed away in July. Maybe some of you knew him, Keith Middlemass. He died suddenly the 1st of July. He did the restoration on the courthouse right across the street here, and did a lot of stonework in Lawrence, and I guess was somewhat of an icon here. So I'm missing both of them.
Oh, thank you for that. Would you like to share your poems?
Yes.
Thank you.
Sorry, I kind of talked on.
No, that's fine.
Great. Okay. This is a poem by Ronda called Good Night, My Friends, Good Night. Snowflakes falling fluffy and light strike against my heart as weights, each one heavy and hard. Blood drips from my soul as tears from eyes should fall. These other storms, darkness swirling on the horizon too early to be night, contrast sharply with the layering of white across our land. People weep, mourning loved ones too early disappearing from their sight, awakening to the light of morning and a plight an entire nation shares. Good night, my friends. Good night. And here's my poem. It's a little bit, it has snow in it, so it's sort of connected to the one I just read, called Kansas Nights. Kansas nights, my little bedroom off the master bedroom with a closet in between under the staircase. My bedroom and another small room were add-ons to the side of a big two-story house. Flat tin roof, often it rained. I could hear the rain on the roof lull me to sleep, shattered by bursts of thunder and bright lightning. On moonlit nights, the outside through my little window was bright enough to see without a flashlight. Trees and fence and yard, all bathed by the light of the moon. In the winter, the light was even brighter as it reflected off the snow. Other nights so dark, the stars stood out in the sky. Childhood in my little bedroom at night on the farm.
Setting a timer. I'm setting a timer. I'm not going to take my mask off because I'm not feeling well, but it's a stomach thing, so don't worry. I want to talk about the poem before I read it, and I'm not going to respond afterwards. So I'm flipping things because there is a little device at the end of this poem that Rhonda put in there with 9 little dots that tells me we need to allow the last syllable to just through the room.
Yeah.
And then you can clap or whatever. So this poem, come on, timer. No, keep going, keep going. This poem is perfect for today because I don't know if you've been outside and seen all the robins fighting each other because they think it's spring.
Yeah.
They're just like, I'm like, oh, my poor sweet summer birds, this is not spring. The thing about this poem, there's so many sounds in it, and there's so many intentional little consonants that I have to kind of trip over, and then little slant rhymes in it that just are a delight. I didn't know Rhonda, so I don't know if she wrote this to be read out loud, but reading it out loud is fun. So this is March by Ronda Miller, and it reminds me that Kansas is gorgeous, and it makes me want to go on little road trips all over the state, all the little road trips that I want to take to the glaciated hills, to the riparian, like the Meredithine River, that whole area, the Red Hills down in the south, of course the Flint Hills, who doesn't want to go there? There are mountains. And then, Cheyenne Bottoms, I've never been there. Jerusalem Badlands, there's so much to do. I could spend the next 40 years of my life traveling Kansas, and this poem reminds me of that. And I recommend that. I recommend that, don't tell the people on the coasts. Keep it to ourselves. Let's enjoy where we are. We have our own little red rocks like Utah down in like Kingman and Harper County, that area. Unbelievable beauty here, and this poem reminds me of that. This is March by Ronda Miller. Winter witch's furrowed mud brow relaxes late month. Her charcoal hair streams for miles into sluggish Ogallala aquifer, where she lies under Earth's frozen crust. Thighs hardened thick as tree trunks slide open. Juices bubble within her womb. Hope makes its way in rivulets to hair-like follicles. Plant roots, a tightly gathered loop lassoed by gnarled fingers, loosen in her grasp. Dirt-caked nails curl black against forearm. Catfish, frozen on creek bottoms, belch. A bubble of life, surface bound. All quiet as sun rotates, brings direct gazes to deep recesses, calls all nature components a silent cadence. Wind-whipped crevices of a rickery breaks whistle. Winter witch moans, rolls over. February desolation, lustrating rains of April, neither here nor there. Mar, deface, disfigure, deform, followed by breathless
I'm Beth Gully, and I was a friend of Rhonda's. Rhonda did a lot of things for me, including introducing me to William Stafford.
Wow.
Which I don't know why I was so slow to come to the party, but I have enjoyed him so much, and I miss her very much. She really did a lot for the artist community. So I'm going to read William Stafford, Owls at the Shakespeare Festival, which maybe follows Rhonda's poem kind of nicely, I think. So, Owls at the Shakespeare Festival. How do owls find each other in the world? They fly the forest calling, darling, darling. Each time the sun goes out, the world comes true again for owls. Trees flame their best color, dark. At Shakespeare once in Ashland, when Lear cried out, 2 owls flared past the floodlights. On my desk I keep a feather. For those far places, thought fluttered when I began to know. And privileged to have a poem included in the Bards Against Hunger anthology, so I thought I would just read that one. It's called Tea Party. And I will just also say, I'm afraid of a lot of things. And my husband convinced me to take a free diving class, which means holding your breath way down deep in the ocean, which I'm afraid of still. So this is where this poem was born. So, Tea Party. Tea Party, a game we played at the bottom of Bethany Luna's pool, where girls let out their air, sit cross-legged at the pool floor, and pretend to pour and pass tea. Serves as a touch-tone memory as I fight my fear and free dive into the ocean.
Thank you so much to the organizing team for putting this together. Rhonda and I would always say that the only thing harder than herding cats is herding poets. And hey, I want to get a quick picture of everybody, so the count of 3, yell out, Rhonda.
Rhonda.
Okay, thank you. I'm Karen Marion Goldberg, and I had the privilege of serving as the 3rd Poet Laureate of Kansas. and as serving as in this role with Rhonda as my co-pilot as we drove all over the state. It was just when she was coming into her own poetry as a mainstay of her life, and she got me to do things I never thought I would do. Leap up on tables in Salina, Kansas and yell out poems at people, or go to quiche eaters in Dodge City and force our poems upon the audience. Rhonda, wherever you are, we miss you and love you. This first poem by William Stafford is called Assurance. You will never be alone. You hear so deep a sound when autumn comes, yellow pulls across the hills and thrums, or the silence after lightning before it says its names, and then the clouds' wide-mouthed apologies. You were aimed from birth. You will never be alone. Rain will come, a gutter fill, an Amazon, long aisles you never heard so deep a sound, moss on rock and years. You turn your head. That's what the silence meant. You're not alone. The whole wide world pours down. And William Stafford was a real gift to Kansas. He was from Kansas, later moved to Oregon. They claim him, we claim him. And he used to come to all of these types of events, hide in the back and take photos of everybody. So I'm guessing that many of us, like me, might feel like we're living in two worlds. There's this beautiful, loving world we're creating, where we value kindness and respect and community building. And then there's the world happening in Minneapolis, St. Paul, where two of my three children live, and many other places, and threatening here and there and everywhere, where cruelty reigns. And I find it incredibly painful and confusing, but the only thing I know for sure is we come together and we lead with love. And this poem is called Advice for the Impossible Now. Sit in this hand-me-down chair in your living room tonight. Don't turn the lights on. Remember yourself as an animal who roams this air, this light, this darkness. Breathe a little slower to catch up with the galloping wildebeest in your chest, or the gasping goldfish in your lungs, the hungry raccoons of your mind, and all the others scared and on the run. Don't be so hard on yourself for having a nervous system. Tomorrow, when you wake, wait. Don't lift the phone to your frightened eyes, first thing up from the dream of losing your shoe on a street in a faraway city. This is new for all of us. Look out the window instead, even if it's all fog. Notice the curtains, your fingernails, all else headlining the news of now. Your whole life leads up to this, leads past it too, into a land you can't yet fathom, but know you will reach with the others. There are so many others. Ask them how they are. Watch for what happens next.
Good afternoon, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I can hardly hear myself.
Get a little closer to your mouth.
Yeah.
Swallow them all.
There you go.
Thanks to the organizers, thanks to all the poets who showed up, and thanks to all the friends of poetry who showed up to listen. It's fun to read, no matter who your audience is, but it's really fun to read when there are people who aren't waiting their turn. So long ago, am I right? So long ago, when I was a mere tadpole, I got to be at a writers' conference with William Stafford and hundreds of other people, of course. And I got to interact with him on a daily basis because he always showed up where the students were and just hung out. He was an incredibly kind, generous, gentle, and affable man, and I'm grateful to have met him. However, the more of his poetry I read, the more I understand that I did not see his great, unwavering courage. Reading his poems, I see that William Stafford was a man who looked deeply into the dark and did not flinch. And I'm very, very grateful for him. This poem is called Accountability. Cold nights outside the taverns in Wyoming. Pickups and big semis lounge idling, letting their haunches twitch now and then in gusts of powder snow. Their owners inside for hours, forgetting as well as they can the miles, the circling plains, the still town that connects to nothing but cold and space and a few stray ribbons of pavement. I see guides to nothing but bigger towns and other taverns that glitter and wait. Denver, Cheyenne. Hibernating in the library of the school on the hill. A few pieces by Thomas Aquinas or St. Teresa, and the fragmentary explorations of people like Alfred North Whitehead crouch and wait among research folders on energy and military recruitment posters glimpsed by Har Star. The school bus by the door, a yellow mound, clangs open and shut as the wind finds a loose door and worries it all night, letting the hollow students count off and break up and blow away over the frozen ground. So this is a poem that appeared in Mockingbird Review about a year and a half ago. And it's a poem in which, honestly, I look kind of side-eyed at the dark, and I don't flinch too hard. And if I ever have a headstone, I wanted to say, she didn't flinch too hard. It's called Mice. The field mouse is an easy catch, even at 3 a.m. when Appleseed carries it into my bed to play, waking me with ruffled cries as she tosses it into the air and pounces. I could do this in my sleep. Switch on the lamp, fumble for glasses, plastic tumbler, pinpoint the mouse, gray and dazed, trembling under a shoe. Scooping it up, I wonder if this is how God feels, staring down at a creature infinitely small and uncomprehending. I stumble outside and kneel and tip the mouse into freedom, the dark of the ivy scrolling along the fence. As usual, I must nudge it forward with my toe. What with the cat nosing around the cover, maruffing, looking under the dresser in every corner, it takes time to fall back to sleep. And I can't stop worrying about all the mice for whom I've merely postponed death. How do they find their nest? What if the owl is out? Forgetting what it is she can't find, my cat gives up and curls near me, purring, licking the taste from her paw. My thoughts creep off. Thank you.
So, we have this group.
I think Brian just walked in.
Did he?
Oh, Brian came? Oh, wait, and if Brian's here, Brian, are you, can you read now, Brian?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, we have Brian coming.
Better late than never.
Come and join us. You can.
Okay, nice to be back here again and see all these good people. So I've got a poem for Rhonda, who we all miss so much. And my poem was, I knew Rhonda very well, and as most of you know, she was working on an autobiography that she was working on that for a long time, and she never seemed to finish it. She kept going back to it, and so that's what I based my poem on. And I was thinking of Auden's poem for Yeats, and Auden wrote about Yeats. He became his admirers, and his idea was that after Yeats had died, all of his readers and his friends, what he had given to them sort of allowed him to continue in some way. And I thought that's kind of what Rhonda did with us, because I'm sure we'll always remember her for forever. And Auden wrote in his poem for Yeats, "Earth receive an honoured guest, William Yeats is laid to rest. Let the Irish vessel lie emptied of its poetry. In the deserts of the heart, let the healing fountain start. In the prison of his days, teach the free man how to praise." It's a much longer poem, but that's from the final section of the poem, which I like very much. And so this poem is called Rhonda's Story. And the epigraph to that is, "He became his admirers, Auden of W.B. Yeats." I was always hoping that one day you'd finish writing it, your story, the complete version of it, or at least as complete as any story can be. I'd read parts of it in your poems and in your prose piece in progress. And in talking to you about it, the horror of your early childhood, all the strife after that. It's some sort of miracle that you not only survived it, but somehow you weren't spoiled by it. You were always such a kind spirit who cared too much about others, especially anyone struggling, anyone on the outside. So you never told the whole story. Maybe it was too much to tell all at once, so it will have to live on in the words you gave to each of us who knew you, coming together like this to tell your story. Wonderful.
So should we have this group different seats, and then have the second group come up while we're singing? We're gonna do the switch around. We're doing good on So I was thinking that we could have the second group and the seats at the table. Okay, sounds good. Please. Yes.
May I have everyone's attention just for a second? We would like to invite the second group of readers to please come and sit at the table. If you are a previous reader, you have anything up here, make sure you get it. While they are getting settled, we will have the persisters.
Where do you think we should start? Where do we want to start? Right here?
Where would you like to?
I mean, you don't want to go out to like.
I'll put you in front. You should be in front.
Okay.
You don't want this. If I can have everyone's attention, please. Hello, 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 hello. I would like to share this wonderful group with you. Iris is going to do the introduction of the Persisters. Listen to this beautiful music.
Hi, everybody. We're the Persisters. We're a women's resistance choir, and this group was started during the first T-Rump administration, back in whenever that was, 8-10 years ago. And then we kind of stopped over the Biden administration, and then, of course, now we're back together again. And we are doing this in honor of a woman who passed away this last year, Bianca Scorlazzi. She's an incredible musician here in town, and she was a leader in the Persisters. And we are doing kind of a toned-down version of what we normally do.
That would be a fun.
Okay, so.
This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. In my brother's heart, I'm gonna let it shine. In my brother's heart, I'm gonna let it shine. In my brother's heart, I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine.
Join us.
In my sister's soul, I'm gonna let it shine. In my sister's soul, I'm gonna let it shine. In my sister's soul, I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. All around the world, I'm gonna let it shine. All around the world, I'm gonna let it shine. All around the world, I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine.
And I want to say a big thanks for Sarah and Edie and Kathy and Emily and Patricia and Linda for being here. And there's a bunch more of us, but this is all we are here tonight. So today. So here's our next one.
What the world needs now is love, sweet love. It's the only thing that there's just too little of. What the world needs now is love, sweet love. No, not just for some, but for everyone. Lord, we don't need another mountain. There are mountains and hillsides enough to climb. There are oceans and rivers enough to cross, enough to last till the end of time. What the world needs now is love, sweet love. It's the only thing that there's just too little of. What the world needs now is love, sweet love. No, not just for some, but for everyone. Lord, we don't need another meadow. There are cornfields and wheat fields enough to grow. There are sunbeams and moonbeams enough to shine. Oh, listen, Lord, if you want to know what the world needs now is love, sweet love. It's the only thing that there's just too little of. What the world needs now is love, sweet love. No, not just for some, but for everyone.
And, you know, yeah, poetry is good medicine and so is music. Okay.
Sing along, because I think we all know.
Yeah. If I had a hammer, I'd hammer in the morning, I'd hammer in the evening, all over this land. I'd hammer out danger, I'd hammer out warning, I'd hammer out love between my brothers and my sisters, all over this land. Ooh, if I had a bell, I'd ring it in the morning, I'd ring it in the evening, all over this land. I'd ring out danger, I'd ring out a warning, I'd ring out love between my brothers and my sisters, all over this land. Ooh, if I had a song, I'd sing it in the morning, and I'd sing it in the evening, all over this land. I'd sing out danger, I'd sing out a warning, I'd sing out the love between my brothers and my sisters, all over this land. I got a hammer, and I got a bell, and I got a song to sing all over this land. It's a hammer of justice, it's a bell of freedom, it's a song of love between my brothers and my sisters, all over this land.
Thank you, Her Sisters. Thank you very much for that beautiful musical melody. Yes.
I guess I'm number one. I'm Dennis Bosley.
You're number one, you're the number one guy.
I'll try.
Oh, that's... Okay, hello everyone. We shall continue with our programming with a new set of readers. And first up,
Dennis Bosley.
oh, you got
I was on the Southwest Kansas Library System Board when we were hosting William Stafford in 1983 to come to Southwest Kansas to his old digs, and he actually came into our adobe house. And on the way back to Garden City on Highway 156, he said, "There's a frog in the middle of the road." Well, I want to read a poem. I'm going to read this. And to the point, my wife died on July the 10th. And I had a very good conversation with Annette Billings a couple of weeks ago about grief and love, and about how they're all one and the same. So, last 10 days in hospice at our house after 49 years of marriage, I realized how deeply we were in love. So, I'll try to read this without breaking down and crying. Here goes, Bess. And Audrey died of cancer, and she had 10 metastatic tumors in her body that we found out 17 days before she died. So we had to figure out what we were going to do. And so here's what happened. Ours are the streets where Bess first met her cancer. She went to work every day, past the secure houses. At her job in the library, she arranged better and better flowers, and when students asked for books, her hand went out to help. In the last year of her life, she had to keep her friends from knowing how happy they were. She listened while they complained about food or work or the weather, and the great national events danced their grotesque fake importance always. Pain moved where she moved. She walked ahead. It came. She hid. It found her. No one ever served another so truly. No enemy ever meant so strong a hate. It was almost as if there was no room left for her on earth. But she remembered where joy used to live. She straightened its flowers. She did not weep when she passed its houses. And when she finally pulled into a tiny corner and slipped from pain, her hand opened again, and the streets opened, and she wished all well. So I was a farmer way back then when William Stafford came, going through the farm crisis. And here's a poem that I wrote 41 years ago, or 45 years ago. The annual All Kansas Pheasant Run is about to begin. Get away from cities, relieve yourself, drive past Eisenhower Center, Coronado Heights, Post Rock, anticipate starkness, depressurize, breathe air, behold, high plains, let blood run, bones feel, listen to the wind. Later, standing in the annual American Legion Post 190 Mountain Oyster Fry, contemplate your return. Now I'm going to hurry up. I've got a couple of poems about the third grade. 1957, I was in the third grade. Granddad, age 64, was short on oxygen. The great blizzard. Dad got on Granddad's Minneapolis Moline tractor without a cab, got the key to Brett's garage, went in, got a big orange oxygen cylinder, wrapped one end of a log chain around the neck, hooked the other side to the tractor, dragged it up the snow-packed Main Street to Granddad and Pearl's house. Finally, Dad made it home. He was in the porch shitting his coats. I yelled out, "Where the hell did you go?" He said he couldn't hear me. He said, "Come a little closer." I said, "Where the hell did you go?" He said, "Come a little closer." I said, "Where the hell did you go?" And bam! Yeah. That third time, that horse lover, tank commander, cattleman, master farmer gave it to me in the face. Miss McLaris was my teacher then. She was a refugee from Greece. The next day, on one of those large snowbanks in the backyard, I learned how to stand on a sled without even using a rope to hang on, which led to walking on stilts in high school, also jumping from them into Potter's Lake the day Abby Hoffman and Ike Pappas of CBS News Chicago came to Lawrence. April the 8th, 1970, just before the Union burned down in Kent State and no final exams that year. 2 shot dead in the street, sat laughing in the emergency room. I got one more poem. A poetry guy came up yesterday and said he could find excessive words here.
I'm Dwayne Johnson, and this poem is by Ronda Miller. It's entitled Wherever When. Why fear when I know which way the wind blows? Any doubt, and I walk from this flat land to stand under the oldest cottonwood tree high on a hill and hold one and feel spit dry upon one finger held skyward. Which direction will my ashes carry once my remains no longer matter? Will they shift and swarm as locusts weather during the Depression? Or if the season is right, will they wash through dry creek beds like the ones survived in the 50s? Perhaps ashes sift, fine as silk, upon prairie loas and flowering meadow, as bird and bee alike carry them in all directions. Or maybe one blustery day, the ashes mix with flakes so large they cover blackbirds within seconds, layering upon frozen ground. Time no longer a factor, fear no longer a presence. Wherever wind takes me, I remain in Kansas. And this other poem is about Ronda. It's entitled The Woman Beneath the Tree. Maybe about 3 or 4 years ago, I was, as I sometimes do, listening to a CD of poetry that Rhonda, Roy Beckmeyer, Dan Pohl, and I put out, I don't know, 12, 15 years ago. And this poem came through the speakers that I just read, Wherever Wind. And I was so struck by it, I just stopped it and I replayed it 3 or 4 times. I worked with Rhonda on a number of projects. The CD, by the way, is over there if you want to sacrifice $5 so you can hear Rhonda's voice. I was the vice president for her second year of her 2-year stint as president of Kansas Authors Club. And I really have a lot of admiration and respect for Rhonda. And as we worked together on various things, sometimes she made me mad. And I think it was, well, I know it was during one of those times when I was mad at Rhonda, when I listened to that CD, listened to that poem, and decided that I would write a poem about Rhonda. So you probably do that same kind of thing to help you, work out some emotions that are troubling you. So I took the image of the woman under the tree, and the poem is The Woman Beneath the Tree, and moved it from high on the hill to lakeside, and turned the tree from a cottonwood into an oak. Because to me, an oak better personifies the strength and the character that Rhonda possesses. Present tense. And that's important because not only is a woman beneath the tree, Rhonda, but also Rhonda is the tree. She whispers tales of water signs, moon stains, and winds of time. She's never known for sure where she came from. First one family, then 2 more. Where she is now seems unsettled. But she knows her heart's desire, and facing evening star, she stands beneath that tree, her back to it, touching without leaning against it, considering tomorrow. The tree, a chestnut oak, firmly rooted, has traveled 80 times around its star, drawing rings around its unswerving heart that throbs to a timeless pulse, still rhythms invoking winds of time and water signs. This growing vantage grants the grand view of the lake, and the woman and the tree share their blossoming vision with each other. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Emily Renz, and I'm one of the new co-producers of the Voltage reading series. It is a poetry open mic and reading series that is coming back after a hiatus. It's coming back February 25th. Will be our first one back, and it'll be at replay, and then it'll be the third Wednesday of every month. So if you are a poet and you want to share what you've written, it is a very beautiful space to do that. I would like to thank Iris Craver for inviting me to be here, and also for introducing me to the work of Ronda Miller and telling me what an amazing person she was. I chose her poem, Little Tykes. Sammy wants to brush my hair, but it's an excuse to eat it. Hands surprisingly large for his age, he leans fully into me, puts his entire face into my hair, breathes deeply, and takes it into his mouth. Ew, the other children squeal. He's eating your hair. He's leaving slobbers. I remind him not to eat my hair. But it tastes so good, he says as he takes in another mouthful. He eats only peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, cookies, Cheerios, and drinks milk or apple juice. His new friend, who goes to the same school in the morning, but is brought on a different bus to my house at noon, is more limited in his food choices. Brian only eats dry Cheerios and plain flour tortillas. I remind myself to buy a family-sized box of Cheerios the next time I go to the store. Brian always holds 2 rocks in his hands, doesn't speak, but does scream loud frequently. When I wash his hands, I wash the rocks lovingly before I give them back to him. Sammy stops running through the yard, tapping everything with the yellow Little Tykes hammer I've been meaning to throw away daily, long enough to put his arm around Brian, says, "What's wrong, little buddy?" before he begins tapping wildly again with the hammer. He taps the 14-year-old Persian cat, who looks more than irritated as he moves quickly through the yard. He taps my arm, heads in the direction of my car. I steer him in a different direction. His father arrives to pick him up, asks, "Did he have a good day?" I lie, say yes. Brian screams more loudly when he sees Sammy is leaving. I remind him he still has his rocks in his hands. I pick up the Little Tykes hammer, make my way around the yard, tapping on everything, listening to the different sounds it makes, so new to my ears. That poem reminded me of something that I wrote. I didn't write it that long ago, but I wrote it about a very different time and place. Before I moved here 2 years ago, I was a magazine editor living in New York City.
Wow.
And this is a little snapshot of one of those days in New York working on assignment. But it reminded me of this poem because it involved some exclaiming, some really vivid exclaiming, and it also involved me hanging back and watching boys interact with each other. So that's why I chose this. This is called Kobe Bryant. I had been drinking champagne and watching oiled up men gyrate for about 3 hours when the news started spreading through the bar that Lakers legend Kobe Bryant had been killed in a helicopter crash. Times Square's Sapphire 39 Gentlemen's Club had just started opening their doors to women on weekend afternoons, offering up bachelorette party brunches with a healthy side of sausage. I was covering this astonishing leap forward for feminism for the magazine that I worked for, and I had brought some of my colleagues along for the ride. Woo! We had all shouted, dropping our cool, detached journalistic veneers and sounding like girl-powered ambulances rushing to the scene of some kind of lewd emergency. Woo, woo, woo! The hottest thing about these guys is that they have jobs, my friend Charlie said, motioning to a cop in hot pants, a shirtless firefighter, and a construction worker with a very hard hat, who had emerged from backstage to gather beneath one of the club's glowing TV sets. I laughed, but I was distracted. One dancer was center stage, lathering his pecs with a wet sponge. Another was body rolling a girl in a plastic tiara into oblivion on the floor. And a Casanova in black leather pants had just grabbed our boss from behind and was bending her over the back of the VIP booth. That's why it took me longer than it should have to realize that the nearly nude tradesmen standing over by the TV sets were crying. Not big heaving sobs, but rather the soft whimpering I remember boys making in grade school when they were suddenly shocked by hurt and the tears escaped them before they had the chance to play it tough. I watched them console each other amid the chaos of the club. The firefighter offered the cop a cocktail napkin to use to blow his nose. The construction worker steadied himself with a hand on each of his friend's shoulders, their faces all upturned towards the flickering images of Kobe Bryant's Sikorsky S-76 strewn across a Calabasas mountainside. In that moment, the bass line of Pony by Genuine released its grip on my senses, and the carefully crafted fantasy I had been invited to experience gave way to something much more tender. Grief had transformed Beefcake into something too beatific for Times Square. Never more naked, never more sublime.
All right. Well, I'm Eric McHenry, and I'd like to thank basically everybody except whoever scheduled me to read after Emily. I'm really grateful to Iris and all the organizers. I'm really grateful to all of you, and I'm especially grateful to William Stafford and to Ronda Miller for giving us the lives and the bodies of work that richly deserve this celebration. I'm just going to share the rescued here. And this is a poem, actually I'll share one story really quickly. This is a poem that reminds me of one of my favorite William Stafford stories. My wife's family lives in Oregon, and so we visit Oregon a couple times a year, and so I'm often thinking about Oregon and Kansas and the contrast there. And apparently after he lived in Oregon for a long time, but was still writing poems about Kansas over and over again, someone asked William Stafford, "Why do you keep writing about Kansas? Don't you like Oregon?" And he said, "Yeah, Oregon's all right, you know, but all these mountains and trees, they kind of get in the way of the scenery." This is the rescued year. Take a model of the world so big it is the world again. Pass your hand, press back that area in the west where no one lived, the place only your mind explores. On your thumb, that smudge becomes my ignorance, a badge the size of Colorado. Toward that state, by train, we crossed our state like birds and lodged the year my sister gracefully grew up against the western boundary where my father had a job. Time should go the way it went that year. We weren't at war. We had each day a treasured unimportance. The sky existed. So did our town. The library had books we hadn't read. Every day at school we learned and sang, or at least hummed and walked in the halls. In church I heard the preacher. He said, "Honor," with a sound like empty silos repeating the lesson. For a minute I held Kansas Christian all along the Santa Fe. My father's mean attention, though, was busy. This I knew. And going home, his wonderfully level gaze would hold the state I liked, where little happened and much was understood. I watched my father's finger mark off huge eye scans of what happened in the creed. Like him, I tried. I still try. Send my sight like a million pickpockets up rich people's drives. It is time when I pass for every place I go to be alive. Around any corner, my sight is a river, and I let it arrive. Rich, By those brooks, his thought poured for hours into my hand. His creed, the greatest ownership of all, is to glance around and understand. That Christmas, Mother made paper presents. We colored them with crayons and hung up a tumbleweed for a tree. A man from Hugoton brought my sister a present. His farm was tilted near oil wells. His car ignored the little bumps along our drive. Nothing came of all this. It was just part of the year. I walked out where a girl I knew would be. We crossed the plank over the ditch to her house. There was popcorn on the stove, and her mother recalled the old days, inviting me back. When I walked home in the cold evening, snow that blessed the wheat had roved along the highway seeking furrows, and all the houses had their lights. Oh, that year did not escape me. I rubbed the wonderful old lamp of our dull town. That spring, we crossed the state again, our father soothing us with stories. The river lost in Utah, underground. They'd explored only the ones they've found. And that old man who spent his life knowing, unable to tell how he knew. I've been sure by smoke, persuaded by mist, or a cloud, or a name. Once the truth was ready, my father smiled at this. It didn't care how it came. In all his ways, I hold that rescued year. Comes that smoke like love into the broken coal that forms to chunks again and lies in the earth again in its dim folds. And comes a sound, then shapes to make a whistle fade. And in the quiet, I hold no need, no hurry. Any day, the dust will move, maybe settle. The train that left will roll back into our station. The name carved on the platform unfill with rain. And the sound that followed the couplings back will ripple forward and hold the train. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. You're following all these poets. It just gets harder. Hi, everyone. My name is Ian Cook. It's been a bit since I've been out in the community, so it's really nice to see folks and hear poetry. I've kind of been in a cave for the last year or so, working in mental health, case management, health and wellness coach.
Wow.
I became board certified last November as well. So very, very happy to. Yes, I think having found my path in life, and the job has been a very interesting lesson in management of energy and boundaries and all sorts of stuff, which leads to more poetry. But first I'll read a poem of Rhonda's, who I miss. I really didn't know her very long, and I wish I knew her more, but she was very encouraging when I first got back into the poetry community. So for Rhonda, this is an untitled poem I found on her Facebook page that she had written in an email to family. It's about grief. If not for the tears, my eyes would have been skyward instead of downward cast. Dark stains from the mulberry tree would have gone unnoticed, as would the stains that then touched from my fingers to my lips. The taste of my childhood and that of my children's brought back more than memories. It made me remember that tears serve their purpose. They make us look places we'd never look otherwise. They clear our vision and wash the dirt of life from our souls. They remind us how good crying feels. That release we feel when tension leaves its trail down our cheeks and mingles, turning blue as ink among the mulberry juice as it splashes and spills life all over us. And so some folks know I'm involved in the mental health space, education-wise, advocacy-wise. I do some work with NAMI. Yes, I love NAMI. Got a lot of benefits for my family too. Me and other family members have mental health conditions that make things quite difficult sometimes. But a couple years ago, I started the Lawrence Psychedelic Society, similarly doing work in education, safety, risk reduction. I do work as health and wellness coach and also for preparation integration for folks going through therapies with ketamine in the area for folks knowledgeable of that, PTSD, depression, anxiety, substance use. And so my past couple of years has been very steeped in human contact and consciousness, and how can I hopefully enable others to be more free and to lessen their suffering. And so this poem is called Conscious Mess. Oh, and as I read, I invite you to inhale deeply and exhale deeply. And as you're doing that, maybe a picture, as you inhale, a door opens inward and you let in the world. And as you exhale, a door opens outward and you let yourself out to the world. So the seeing, the being, the doing, we participate in a grand play. Let me show you the masks I wear, the persona through which I say, I am that, and also that too. It's all one thing. You are, therefore I am. Endless spokes on a wheel that's been turning since before and after, the rising sun, the many rays that shine, joyous daylight, the dark night, the moon bright, nothing but light. It's all light. Thank you. The last little thing, for those who may be interested, myself and the Lawrence Psychedelic Society and some of my cohorts and colleagues in the mental health space are hopefully planning a conference in late April titled the Kansas Consciousness Conference. And so we're hoping to bring in speakers, bring in community, local facilitators, breathwork, yoga, dance, mental health work, all sorts. So if you're interested, please reach out and we shall discuss. Thank you.
Okay. So right now, I'm determined to stay woke. Yeah. And William Stafford was. This is his poem, A Ritual to Read to Each Other. If you don't know the kind of person I am, and I don't know the kind of person you are, a pattern that others may prevail in the world, and following the wrong God home, we may miss our star. For there is many a small betrayal in the mind, a shrug that lets the fragile sequence break, sending with shouts the horrible errors of childhood storming out to play through the broken dike. And as elephants parade holding each elephant's tail, but if one wanders, the circus won't find the park. I call it cruel, and maybe the root of all cruelty to know what occurs, but not recognize the fact. And so I appeal to a voice, to something shadowy, a remote, important region in all who talk. Though we could fool each other, we should consider, lest the parade of our mutual life get lost in the dark. For it is important that awake people be awake, or a breaking line may discourage them back to sleep. The signals we give, yes or no, or maybe, should be clear. The darkness around us is deep. And that's William Stafford. And so, my first teacher was Kay Adams, and she's out in Colorado. And she told me that whenever we gathered people together around their words, that there best be chocolate. And then my second great teacher was Karen Marion Goldberg.
Yay!
And she taught me that when we gather people together around words, we should be hospitable. And then my third teacher is Naomi Shaki Nye.
Yes.
And she wrote a poem. Let me find it for a second. She wrote a poem called Kindness. She wrote a poem called Kindness. And the beginning of it is, before you know what kindness really is, you must lose things. Feel the future dissolve in a moment, like salt in a weakened broth. And that poem inspired me to write this one. And this one is out of the Bards Against Hunger anthology. And I just want to encourage everybody to throw some money in the basket over there, pick up an anthology for $10, use their Venmo QR code thingy to give some money to Just Food. So this is my poem called It Was a Kindness. Sorry, Chris.
Time to take all the time.
Back to you. Okay. It was a kindness to bend over and push shoes onto my mother's poor crippled feet. After a while, we bought the kind with Velcro, like little kids' shoes, so that I didn't have to tie the laces. Too often the bows came undone after I left, and then what? Or if I tied knots, the nurse aides complained and jerked Mom's feet trying to get her shoes off at night. It was a kindness that could barely repay all that she did for me. The unyielding love, no matter how far I strayed. After all, she taught me how to tie my shoes. Something about making a bunny rabbit run around the tree and go into a hole. We didn't have Velcro back then. How I miss those trips to Walmart with Mom, pushing her wheelchair to buy some house slippers, the kind with elastics so she can put them on all by herself, like the way she taught me to dress myself as a girl. It was a kindness we shared when I raced her to the toilet as she dribbled pee, both of us laughing. She taught me how to use the potty chair. It was a kindness. She taught me that too. She taught me kindness.
So, my son lives in Queens. You're from 42 live Yeah, he lives right across the East River from the United States.
So we're going to have Chris Luxem share a bit of a musical interlude, and hopefully you will be able to enjoy that and also take advantage of an opportunity to get some water and also donate to Just Food. Yeah, I couldn't think of what it was. And also Bards Against Hunger.
And so also, should we have the next group of readers come up?
Oh, and the next group of readers come up and get settled while Chris Luxem is playing. Thank you.
See the dream as it slips away. Hold on tight, it will be okay. Breathe, let holiday. Stay as long as I can. You cry, and you cry. Hold on tight, holiday. Dream that yourself be play. Hold on tight, holiday. Cry, and you cry. The light is to find on and on.
Is this working?
Is this working? Yeah, this is working. Yeah, so Chris was really, doing a good job of singing over our conversations. But for the next two, of his songs, I'm wondering if we could, give him better attention. If that can work. Okay, so I'm trying to get everyone to be able to give Chris better attention right now.
Yeah, the next year gonna be a little quieter, so you're gonna need to be a little quieter too. It's okay, we'll make it work. This next one is it's called Richland Silt, and it's about it's kind of loosely about Richland, Kansas, which was a town that no longer exists because it's in the floodplain of Lake Clinton, Lake, and but the ghost town of it still kind of exists, like the remnants and stuff. And so this is kind of about me and a friend of mine exploring that area one day. Yeah, it's called Richland Silt. You say I'll go, and I say I'll follow you down to the bank where water's shallow and we can dip our feet in, and you will sit right next to me. The ebb and the flow and the push and the pull of the water, our bodies are buzzing and sun-kissed as we tread the creek bed, pebbles between our toes. Walking on water, holding our breath in the air. Pictures of mud, yellow flowers in your hair. crossing an old bridge to a sunflower graveyard where we steal the seeds and our shoes are still soaking. Use taste recognition, but all these just taste the same. On this hill we can see the world for miles. Our shadows stretch across the family plots. Frog in the swimming pool, a frog under your tire. But we just like amphibians, will soon one day expire. There's no use in crying, you put your arm around me. 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 I appreciate that. I'm gonna sing one more. This next song is called Kaw River, and it's kind of loosely based on kind of like Quantrill Grade and kind of just the fog of war. And I mean, obviously I think a lot about just like, battles and kind of worldly like events and stuff, but it's kind of loosely based on George and Annie Bell, the Bell House on Ohio Street. It's a really beautiful artifact that we have here in town, and they have a pretty interesting story for sure. Like I said, very loosely based. Yeah, the song's called Kaw River. Walked in my barefoot down to the Kaw River. I saw my reflection and started to cry. There on my shoulder was a man had for dinner. Put his arm around me, said time to go die. And my sons, they were murdered. And my wife lived till 1935. There climbed a tree just to escape all the masses. Got caught a glint off of my glasses. They gathered around and said, time to come down here. Kicked me around and then pushed me to town. And my sons, they were murdered. And my wife lived till 1935. Thank you very much. I appreciate you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris Loxon, for the wonderful music and enhancing our atmosphere of creativity here. And so as we move on to the next round of our notable readers, I forget who's.
The last one.
Oh, okay, all right. Here you are, sir.
Thank you very much. And thank you to the organizers, Iris and the rest, and to the Watkins Museum for hosting this event, and for all the readers. It's gone by really quickly. A long reading, but
I'm sorry, but I can't hear you.
Oh, sorry about that. Thank you. Yeah, no, I was just saying that, it seemed like it was going to be a long reading, but it's gone by very quickly. All of the stuff is really interesting. Okay, I was really sorry to hear that Ronda had passed. She was a real stalwart in the poetry community here. Very welcoming and very open to all kinds of poetry, even the weird stuff I write. And came to readings and was not waiting for her turn in line. In fact, didn't have a turn in line, just waiting to hear the poems. Anyway, but I'm going to read a William Stafford poem. Going back and looking at his poems a couple of weeks ago, I noticed that quite a few of them are kind of political and largely on the themes of war and peace, but which you knew firsthand. Okay, this is called Explaining the Big One. Remember that leader with the funny mustache? Liked flags and marching, gave loyalty a bad name. Didn't drink, they say, but liked music and was jolly sometimes. And then the one with the big mustache and the wrinkled uniform, always jovial for the camera, but eliminated malcontents by the millions. He was our friend, I think. Women, oh yes, women, they danced and sang for the soldiers or volunteered their help. We loved them, except Tokyo Rose. Didn't we kill her afterward? Our own leaders? The Johnny cigarette holder, the one with the cigar, remember the pearl-handled revolvers? And Ike, who played golf. It was us against the bad guys then. You should have been there. Yeah, Americans in history, man, we just don't get it sometimes. I'm going to just read part of a longer poem that was recently published in a journal called Compilus Around in their anti-tyranny issue. And I was asked to contribute, and I was thinking, what do I do? This was during the summer, and I was even more confused than I am now about the political, social climate. Anyway, and this is called Stanzas in Trepidation. Train stations do not move, it's the planet that does. Blue in the air implies protection from the dark, and this year the skies have remained stubbornly clear. Kant could ignore churches, houses, walls, cobblestones he saw each day to concentrate on the structures in his mind. Now, the wind flails the branches a little more madly. An American says, we are the federal law. Earnest white people insist they can't help. My colleagues speak of flying under the radar, like supersonic missiles flying underneath the pole. Oh, to be merely interested, having seen birds, fluorescent green and orange, iridescent aquamarine, emphatic red and black, metallic fire-fangled feathers actually dangling. When one wakes up in the morning, one plans on living forever. But your shabby principles are catching up with you. Everything so tenuously plotted as though one slight touch. Honk if you love or hate the nice young man who promises to walk you through the process. Turn the TV up a bit louder to protect the children. Constant low roar from the traffic way miles away, or roar and thud of helicopter engine blades. I don't know how to talk about tyranny, but I do know how to check for rain, where the puddles show the widening circles, crumbling concrete stairs, permanent yellow tape at school. If you're still here, you've opted in. But if you want to opt out, you'll have to stand in line.
Hi there, I'm Julie Bryn, and I thought this poem by Ronda Miller was perfect for this occasion. It's from Water Signs, perfect for this time of year. Winter meets. February came for a visit this morning. I saw him in discourse with November. They stood outside my garden gate. His fingers lingered on her waist. They gazed into each other's eyes, mouths moved in unison. She comes each fall to bring brittle, broken bones, crumbled leaves, takes hope of love wrapped in a windblown gown of brown Asiatic lilies and chrysanthemum. He arrives late winter to view her acts of despair and destruction. What has been done, he cannot undo, but he changes the memories of that experience firsthand to leave hope of bloom and life to come. I'd never seen them together. Perhaps they meet more often than I know. Perhaps they meet when I'm asleep in falling snow, thigh deep. Thankfully, we don't have thigh deep snow this weekend.
No.
I am from Wichita, and I only knew Rhonda from a distance and through correspondence through Kansas Authors Club, and only for a brief time. And of course, I only knew William by name. And I'm sorry for your losses and for our creative community's loss. And I am selfishly sorry for my loss. Rhonda had agreed to be the editor of my full-length poetry manuscript through Ankara Press just a few months before what would turn out to be her final surgery. But I am very thankful to Beth Gully for being my editor through Ankara Press, and thanks to Mickey and Amber and all of those wonderful folks. And thanks to Kevin, who was one of my reviewers of my manuscript ahead of time. So thanks to all of them. I have a fake book. This is not the real one, but we call it proof copy, and a publication date of May 17th, the Science Letter. So the poem that I'm sharing, don't worry, it's short. It was also pre-published in Newman University's CELA camp way back when more colleges had English departments. So that's another type of loss that we're all mourning, and I'm thankful for all of you who continue the work of arts and humanities in all the ways that you do. So since we're talking about souls today, and we're talking to souls, I thought this was appropriate. And it's maybe a little bit irreverent, which hopefully is appropriate too. It's called Sometimes Souls. Sometimes souls are sticky. You have to scrape them off with a metal spatula, or soak them in the sink overnight, which of course your housemate hates. Sometimes souls are fleeting. You have to retrofit them with a GPS transponder, or if you get advance notice, at least find out their forwarding address. Sometimes souls are absent. You have to conjure them up with bits of string and paper clips, MacGyver style, or scribble them onto napkins and carry them in your raincoat. Sometimes souls are solemn. You have to invite them out to a comedy club, or shut them between the pages of a bathroom humor book until they finally get it. Thank you.
I'm Kevin Ramos. My poem, the first poem I'm going to read is by William Stafford, who was a World War II conscientious objector, and this poem speaks to that. Learning. A piccolo played, then a drum. Feet began to come, a part of the music. Here comes a horse, clippity-clop away. My mother said, don't run. The army is after someone other than us. If you stay, you'll learn our enemy. Then he came, the speaker. He stood in the square. He told us who to hate. I watched my mother's face. It's quiet. That's him, she said. William Stafford. This is the title poem of one of Rhonda's books. It's called Moonstain. Barn doors pushed shut, an indication something worth investigating was within. It took all my strength to open, slide to close again. New birth and pungent urgency led me to the stillborn calf, quite warm. I nestled in the hay beside it, laced my arms around its neck. I knew what death was. Had heard whispers of my mother's not long before. I could hear the mother cow's loud bawling from outside the barn door. I felt the spirit of the calf lift, swirl around me, disappear. It grew cold. I felt damp, fear. I sat in the Caligula's stall until my sister came, took my hand, ran with me past my grandmother's blood moon lit garden of hollyhocks, iris, strawberries, rhubarb, past the spot where a rattler soaked up water from a sprinkler one August day, past the rotted elm where winged fired ants swarmed in balls before they tumbled to the ground. We opened the rusted screen door, tiptoed to the bed where I lay crying because it felt so wondrous, because it felt so good, until the moon stain no longer spread across the floor.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for being here. I'm Lindsay Garcia. I was thinking back, the very first time I met Rhonda was a little over a decade ago at my very first poetry reading ever, which was in the Raven, in its old location. And she and Annette were both there, and they were my first introduction to the poetry community, and they were such great ambassadors for poetry and for Kansas. And that was truly a life-changing night for me. And to think that this is now part of her memorial reading is bizarre, to say the least. It happened way too soon. But I'm so grateful that we get to honor her and William Stafford in this way. She also one time let me use her Airbnb, which was her basement, for a date. And she had all of Stafford's books down there. And I spent more time reading those books than talking to my date. And this is one of my favorite poems that I found. You reading this,
all right.
Be ready. Starting here, what do you want to remember? How sunlight creeps along a shining floor? What scent of old wood hovers? What softened sound from outside fills the air? Will you ever bring a better gift for the world than the breathing respect that you carry wherever you go right now? Are you waiting for time to show you some better thoughts? When you turn around, starting here, lift this new glimpse that you found. Carry into evening all that you want from this day. This interval you spent reading or hearing this, keep it for life. What can anyone give you greater than now? Starting here, right in this room, when you turn around. I think our job as poets is to pay attention and write about it. We make the ordinary extraordinary, and so I have a poem about that for you as well in my new book.
All right.
Thank you. I hope you can resonate with this. It's called Not a Poem. Many poetic thoughts will never become poems because they're not poems. Some examples. The way each person at this table approaches their bite of food differently. Him teeth first, her tongue first, the baby mouth open wide. At home, I only drink coffee from other places, but anywhere else, I only drink coffee from home. You can't tell if the girl by the campfire is crying because of the smoke in her eyes or the breakup. He says he is going to read a piece from memory rather than recite it. The blue of the fall bushberries, looking alien-like, out of place and extraordinary. These are not poems, and never will be, but rather practice at paying attention.
Hi, I'm Macy. Hi. One of the ways that I knew Ronda was through Word Save Lives. And so that gave me like kind of a certain insight and edge into knowing Ronda that maybe not everybody who met her at an open mic or whatever thing had. And I think beyond being absolutely badass, Ronda was just also incredibly good at through putting emotions into kindness and gentleness and being kind of a tender-hearted soul in the world, which I think is a poet trait generally. So I'm going to read, I tried to find something from water signs because fellow Scorpio times, and it just wasn't it and nothing was hitting. And despite the fact that somebody once told me that I read too quickly, I've gotten from people that I respect. Oh, there you are. I'm not a slam poet. I was just raised by slam kitties. So I am going to read Mama Slam, but just keep in mind I'm not actually a slammer. I'm just reading a slam poem. Mama, when you killed yourself when I was 3, you weren't thinking about me or my brother and sister. When we should have been eating your birthday cake, everyone was planning your funeral with no thought of what would become of us, who would raise us, feed us, and especially love us. If you had stuck around, you'd have seen none of those things happen. I was left to grow wild and free, allowing every stranger to put his dick in me. That's how badly I needed to feel love. When it wasn't some rock-hard cock, it was a needle booted in and out of my arm instead of some dainty charm bracelet you should have been presenting me. You left me alone in the cold snow so I could live with all kinds of bad families. Some of them would not even talk to me. They didn't know what to say. I began cutting my way free. I severed every cord, downing pills, stealing records and clothes. When that didn't work, I did my best to become you, because all mothers are perfect in death. They are called angels, and their hair always looks good, with no passage of time. But I couldn't be you. I was stuck with me. I even hired someone to kill me. That's how badly I needed to be set free. If you're in heaven looking down on me, then understand, please. I have done my best to be my own mother. I darn socks and sing myself to sleep. I don't need to keep those early memories of you. What I do need, and this is a plea, is for you to understand how proud I always wanted you to be. My anger has finally been set free. I don't have to kill myself because I'm not you. I'm me. So, Ronda being a badass, we tended to get along in public. I didn't know her all that well, but I consider her a friend. Definitely a poetry community member that I identified with pretty strongly. And in honor of Ronda, I'm going to say the fuck word. I don't title most of my poems, but this one is called Fuck You, Jeff Foxworthy. And also, similar to Lindsay, I write about writing a lot, so here we go. I don't know how to start this poem. I don't know how to begin this fucking poem. It's like writing a eulogy while I'm still very much alive and kicking, and it has felt idiotic and trite for days upon days now, but here I am, starting this fucking poem anyhow. Because time is always ephemeral, just like inspiration, and like inspiration, it tends to elude me, a Tinkerbell who won't end the flitting to and fro long enough to see that it would be in everyone's best interest if we would simply sit and set down, even briefly, our briefest impressions and perceptions on paper.
If you find yourself having a conversation with a tree or with lightning itself, if you can't know how you feel until you begin the sentence of actually saying it, if you sometimes feel your heartbeat may jump directly out of your chest and land pulsing in your own hands, if you find yourself having an entirely more subjective existence and subsistence and sentiment than most people you know are having, and one that is far more subjective than any doctor or nurse or therapist or lab tech or surgical consult or any of those other professionals tasked with dealing with mental or physical deviance from the norm, you might be living one of those many kinds of poetic experiences. That's the fuck you, Jeff Foxford. If you took that phrase from us. It is absolutely legal to love and loathe it equally in your own measures. But for the love of all that is sacred and holy, do not simply leave it. Your life, that is. As all things, both a burden and a blessing, but most importantly, an incredible and improbable fact at this very moment. And if it makes it easier, stay because I said so, but stay. And in your time, please, please do whatever you can to convey your bright, dark worlds and loves and your obvious hatreds and all of your wins and losses and your experiences with bees or flowers or just the slugs, for fuck's sake. Because I know life is not something you can win, but you can certainly lose, even while alive. But in the end, your experience is shared. Guarantee that this is no shitty internet meme, zero-sum game. You can run outside drunk and curse the moon for ever letting you fall in love with her, even once. But in the morning, you awake and apologize and promise her not just one, but many, many more poems. And we, and the moon, of course, we need them all.
Thanks. My name is Michael Pierce. I am not a poet. I'm learning, and I've learned that poetry is so much better when it's read by the person who wrote it.
Absolutely.
It's like reading the book or watching it on television. With you guys reading, it's the best way. First of all, I think we need to send a thank you back to Apollonia and Scott for those of us who cared for Rhonda. I was very fortunate to have spent a lot of time with them, hundreds and hundreds of hours with them.
Wow.
And I got to love them as if they were my own. How they pulled off what they did with the jobs they had, living where they had, making the decisions that they had. Apollonia said at KU Med on Mother's Day, thinking her mother was going to be gone within a few minutes. So anyway, I felt very fortunate to spend a lot of time with them. I begun to think of them as my own, and they have both been getting the exhale they deserve ever since then. So this is called Rhonda's Return. I'm not a poet. I do write a little bit. I've read my own stuff 3 times out of 5,000 bylines. I've read 3 times, all 3 for Rhonda. So this is when we took Rhonda's ashes back home for her. The last of Rhonda's ashes hung in the air a bit, pausing as if to say goodbye. Then a puff of breeze hit, and she was gone. Finality hit me, hard. Tears, heartbreak, emptiness, fear. But within seconds, I sensed her presence and was soothed. Rhonda reached out to us so many times, so many ways that difficult weekend. It was mid-July 2025 when we, Team Rhonda, left Lawrence headed to her beloved Cheyenne County. Scott and Apollonia, Anna and Gabriel shared a rental. I followed. Rhonda's urn safely transported from my office to the pickup seat beside me, totally belted in, and hell yes, it was a bright red urn. We stopped mid-morning in the Foothills to leave a bit of Rhonda at her favorite spot, on her favorite cycling trail. Crossing the rest of Kansas took most of the day. We raced an advancing storm as we hurried across the prairie. Thunderheads grew by the minute. Lightning popped like camera flashes at the Hollywood premiere. Raindrops eventually tapped a lullaby on the lodge's tin roof as Team Rhonda settled in for the night. Soft rolls of thunder enveloped us like Rhonda's soothing hugs. It was mid-July, but the temperature cooled when I went out for a sunrise drive to visit some of her old places. After years of drought, recent rains had the hills coated with lush grasses tall enough to tickle the bellies of Angus calves that waddled around football fat and as dark and as shiny as Kansas crude. Sorghum was already tall enough to hide all but the head and neck of a mule deer doe, standing just a few yards from the road. I could barely see the tips of her fawn's tiny ears beside her. Cherry Creek, Rhonda's retreat to escape so many pains of her childhood, was absolutely magnificent that morning. For decades, the creek was little more than a dry gulch jammed with tumbleweeds. But overnight, a well-timed and well-located cloudburst to the west had Cherry Creek moving fast and high. A 4-foot waterfall roared at the head of the pool where she played and prayed and cried as a child. Rhonda used to send twigs and leaves floating down the creek, pretending they were boats that would take her to heaven to see her mother. I had brought flowers from Rhonda's garden and sent sunflower petals floating down the stream. A passing shadow made me look up and see a great blue heron, her spirit bird, land not far downstream. That's when I began to understand why these special things were happening. We thought we were returning Rhonda to her beloved high plains. In truth, her spirit was already there, reminding us of the best ways to live our lives without her. She showed us there was so much beauty and healing to be found in nature. It was also where we could always find her when we missed her dearly. Rhonda's magnificent show continued the rest of the day. An arrogant rooster pheasant with more colors than a $20 box of crayons stopped traffic. Along a golden field of harvested wheat, dozens of doves lined a power line like the barbs on a wire fence. A trio of tuxedo-colored, long-tailed magpies showed total indifference as I passed a few yards away. Late that afternoon, after the hugs and the tears of the celebration of life in Sainty, Team Rhonda traveled remote back roads to a stunning spot she'd selected and once showed me in her beloved Rickory Breaks. As we hiked in, a bobcat, a creature so seldom seen, stood in the open at the bottom of the deep canyon and slowly trotted away, then climbed a steep canyon and suddenly disappeared from sight. We eventually took turns on a very rugged ridge, sending Rhonda's ashes out over a jagged prairie landscape as beautiful and as bold as a woman we all loved. As we left, I looked to the left and saw a dark spot behind some brush across the canyon. I recognized it. It was the den where the mama bobcat had disappeared to protect her tiny bobkittens. I like to think those tiny little wild balls of fur had watched us from their den the whole time. Rhonda surely enjoyed seeing that and what it signified right then and right there. Rhonda believed in the circle of life. That means as new life enters this world, others must leave. Rhonda wanted to get the most out of life, and I know she still wants her loved ones to do the same, especially out in nature. I, for one, am dedicating to living her legacy, and I hope others will too. And when you're out finding happiness in nature, don't be surprised if you close your eyes and you feel the spirit of Rhonda is with you. After all, as she said, bodies may die, but our love for others lives on forever. Okay, I want to point out one more thing. Rhonda was 17 years old before she heard "I love you" spoken to her. I spent many days with her. I promise you that most every day when she was sick, every day she got "I love you" at least from 17 different people.
Yeah.
That's the spoken word, that's the stop by, that's the text, that's the mail, the card, the flowers, even seeing her at the doctor's office. A lot of that was you. Rhonda's body fell apart. Her mind and emotions had never been healthier and happier. She had resolved everything with her mother, and she'd gone to the grave, her mother's grave, and they forgave each other. She was tickled that Scott had found his happily ever after. And through this whole thing, the physical pain she got so much physical love out of seeing that her children loved her that much. And they not only loved each other, but they liked each other greatly. So when she went out and she knew it was a possibility, she talked about it. But she was absolutely the happiest she had ever been, and about everybody here is to thank for that. So I'd like to thank what you guys did for Ronda. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm the last reader. What a relief. My name is Thad Dugan, and Ronda edited my first book, which was really cool, and I really got to know her, and I miss her. I chose William Stafford across Kansas because I kind of like living in Kansas, to be honest with you. My family slept those level miles, but like a bell rung deep till dawn. I drove down an aisle of sound. Nothing real, but in the bell, past the town where I was born. Once you cross a land like that, you own your face more. What the light struck told a cell. Every rock denied all the rest of the world. We stopped at Sharon Springs and ate. My state still dark, my dream too long to tell. Yeah, I wrote this poem like about a year ago. I was in Eric's class back there, and so I thought I'd come here and read it. I imagine it'll be in my next book. I haven't put together anything yet. I still have to graduate college in May, but other than that, I've been just working hard. By the way, I'm an English major, so This is called Solitude. A snowflake falls in the brittle air. A coarser gust commences, and a retinue of excited greats spin and chase each other in the center of an inbound wind. As darker currents begin to soften into dawn, which illuminates a high rise among its indomitable peers. Skyscraper echoes from sirens draw near. Someone is not going to make it back from the dark. The stalkers, the stars, the macabre of bloody fists and torn off ears and dive bars, to witness the changing of the guard. For the moon is about to shed its dry skin and become the sun again, as the about deceased abruptly loses all interest in the wind. In the lack of content that my thoughts hold, that my eyes behold, in the palms of my hands, past the sirens, past the skyscraper echoes, is this fixation of fear. Past the snowfall, past the passer's redress, it consumes everything I hear, everything I know except this. There is no one coming to save you. Then I let that take hold like a marigold in early spring. Thanks. Oh, and I'd also like to thank all the organizers. You guys did a wonderful job.
All right, very tight.
Yes. Well, I want to thank on behalf of the Kansas Authors Club and the organizers of this wonderful event. We want to thank all of our readers. We really appreciate it. You all made this event a wonderful, just a wonderful way for us to recognize and celebrate the legacies of William Stafford and Ronda Miller. So we want to thank all of our readers, especially the audience, for being here, uplifting music from the Purse Sisters, Chris Luxem. So we just would like to close and say, go and enjoy and embrace the light. And oh, wait a minute, I'm sorry. Hold on. Oh, do you want me to?
Yes, I'll go get it.
Oh, okay.
Pulaski had his poem in the anthology for Bards Against Hunger, and he hasn't read today yet. And so I just was wanting him to read his poem.
Oh, I didn't know. Okay. I was just on his face where I don't know where it is. This will be a stumbling event, but let's. No, I don't know.
Page 47.
Sorry, everyone, for a second.
Well, I didn't know if we'd have time, and we do, and this is such a great way to end.
Very good.
Yeah, we weren't sure about the time, so I was like, I was an alternate, so I did not. I came prepared, but not really. So bear with me, and I shall read this poem that was included in this anthology. That's a great anthology, serving a great purpose. So, the title of the poem is Community. We are the land, the lakes, the rivers that swell, that feed the fertile ground. We are the trees that sway in the roistering winds, the stars that ignite and light the dark spaces with fathomless flashes, shades of origins. We are passions bursting forth a tectonic plateau of spirit, soil, flesh, seeds. We gather here to celebrate diversity, the gift of community, the priceless poetry of family. In a world of senseless noise and didactic distraction, we gather to celebrate the rainbow blessings that embrace and lift us up. We ask for guidance, for strength to embrace, nurture, cultivate the spirits of a new frontier. We ask that we never fail to see the beauty we share, the soul and heart of community. I'd like to thank all the organizers, Lindsay, and are we all here?
Yeah, we're here.
Okay. You all don't want to stand for 2 seconds and let everybody be right? Oh, okay. All right, well, we'll skip it then. But anyway, I say thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for your benediction.
Well, thank you all again. It was a wonderful day. Thank you.
See you next year. Oh, yeah. Subscribe to the Art of Justice.
Oh, I do not.
It's a very grassroots.
Ever happened. And she would always think about people wrapping things up. She wanted to get
Great work. Excellent presentation.
Yeah, we'll get, yes, just send me, I'll get back. We'll figure it out.
Sounds good.
I'm just halfway.
I'm also an author.
This is my wife.
Yeah, they're great. Write down everything I was saying. I know, I'm afraid of writing down. There's somebody back there. Oh, wow, okay. That's two is not more up here. Yeah.